And welcome to the daily space weather video, folks. Looking at Stereo A's coronagraph to show you the coronal mass ejection that we cited yesterday. And we're coming at you from the kitchen today, as there's been some issues with the PC. So we apologize if there are any sudden changes to the format or if things are a little bit out of order, as we're doing this on a smartphone today instead of on a PC. So I've gotten myself off the screen here to show you a closer up image here of this coronal mass ejection that we saw kick off yesterday. And it looks like it's finally about released from the sun there. And we're going to show you some other images here in a minute. I just wanted to cite the fact that there is a coronal mass ejection, that it is not Earth-facing. And here it is on the LASCO C2 coronagraph, the one between Earth and Sun, unlike Stereo A, which is a couple of months behind the Earth, orbitally speaking. And here's the view from the LASCO C2, and we can see the coronal mass ejection missing to the east and to the north, apparently. And I just have it scrolled down here so you can see the time and date stamps. There you can see that coronal mass ejection coming out of the east. And here's the main view. I'll let that play through a couple of times here. You can see it right in this area. So not Earth-facing, kind of headed in between Stereo A and the Earth. Let's move on to look at images of the sun. First, a still image here of the colorized magnetogram, seeing no significant magnetic organization going on here. So nothing resembling a sunspot right now. Let's check some more interesting views in 48-hour videos. And there is the 171 angstroms view. Again, that's 48 hours, folks. And we still see continued plasma filaments there in the western limb of the Earth-facing solar disk. And let's take a look at some of these areas here on the western portion. There's that filamentary area in the southwest. And here's the area in the northwest. And I apologize for the frame around the screen, folks. We're not cropping the videos here to get them out as timely as possible. And we see a couple little bright spots around the equatorial region in the south, and some coronal holes also. And there's the 48-hour video of the 193 angstroms wavelength. Coronal hole moving right into the Earth-facing region right now, a little bit south of the equator. A little bright spot a little north of the equator. Let's look at solar wind. And there's the solar wind data. Phi angle currently around 78 degrees. Solar wind density looks like it's right around 10 protons per cubic centimeter. And solar wind speed around 370 kilometers a second. And next we'll look at 4 hours of geospace magnetosphere movies. Magnetosphere looking pretty weak here. And we'll let that play all the way through, as we missed the first day amassing data on the magnetosphere in nearly 2 years. And next we'll look at geospace ground magnetic perturbations. Geospace delta B, changes in the Earth's B field. The B field is the magnetic field that goes through the magnet, folks, and in this case the magnet is planet Earth. And there's 4 hours of data regarding that. Get that off of my fucking screen, you cocksucking faggot. There's 6 hours of geospace ionosphere. And I think I failed to pause. And here's the latest image. That one coming in at 8:15 UT. Looking fairly normal. Next, we'll head over to spaceweathernews.com for a change. Shout out to Ben Davidson. And there's the GOES X-ray flux. No X-ray flaring really going on right now. There's the data solar wind from the ACE. And there's the GOES magnetometer looking continued spikiness. And some big anomalies there in the GOES magnetometer. KP index currently at 1, having been at 0 a few times in the past 24 hours. And there is 3 days of the GOES electron flux dropping down below alert levels, and we're expecting to see this drop off a little bit throughout the day today. And next we'll look at the Gong 2 data here, top view ecliptic plane field plot. That is a lot of magnetometers to get that 1 hour and 23 minute old data. And it looks like there could still be continued activity down there in that sunspot that recently set over the southwest, as we see the pullback of the southern polar field there, and the current sheet getting charged up by the northern field as a result, shown there in green. Next, we're going to scroll up the earthquake list of the past 24 hours. Pardon the lack of visuals. Again, doing the video on a smartphone today, folks, so. There's a deep quake at the Fiji Islands, a 5.2 magnitude at 92 kilometers. 5.2 at Japan at 80 kilometers. That one coming in at 10:37 yesterday on the 12th. No quakes over a 6 magnitude. There's a deep quake at Alaska, 4.4 magnitude at 119 kilometers. Here's a very deep quake at Fiji, 549 kilometers and a 4.8 magnitude. That one would be over a 6 if it occurred at the surface. And we got an update coming in as we did the shooting of the show. Another deep quake at Alaska, 3.6 at 96 kilometers. And another deep quake at a 2.6 at 137 kilometers, coming in only 10 minutes after the first one. 5.0 at Peru, a 5.0 at Chile. Vanuatu seeing a deep quake, 5.1 magnitude, 114 kilometers depth. And we're skipping the windy.com segment today. Although if you'd like to download it for your smartphone, check out windy.com. Great mobile app, and we see some new volcanoes on the list, or I should say some volcanoes back on the list. Kuchinorabu Jima has been producing a 3,000-foot ash plume. Mount Merapi, there you go, back on the list as it explodes. 16,000-foot plume there. Dacono exploding, flight level 8,000. Popocatépetl exploding, flight level 20,000. Turrialba back on the list. And some emission measurements being listed there. No ash emissions. Seismicity is stable, as well as gas output. POAS, stable fluctuation of seismic activity there. Continued inflation happening. And some apparent changes in the chemical output there as well. Revenador, volcanic ash cloud reported. Sabancaya, unable to detect. Please don't try to pole vault Sabancaya. And Nevados de Chilean not erupting yet on the list. And next we've swung by Weather Underground for a value-added service here. There is the U.S. Doppler radar map. And there you can see the date stamps. A consistent line of heavy rain, as well as snow up in Maine, stretching all the way from Galveston, Texas, all the way to Maine. Heavy snow falling over Massachusetts and Connecticut. And there's the U.S. water vapor map, and you can see the convergence zone happening over the Arkansas-Tennessee border right now. And I really wish that would stop flashing. You son of a... And there's that convergence zone. And I would note that if you are on a cross-country flight today, you will experience some turbulence, as that is some massive air over Arkansas and a massive pressure gradient. A couple of interesting science stories here. The first one authored by me. Cygnus X-3, otherwise known as Alpha Cygni, the brightest star in the constellation Cygnus, known as Deneb, the tail of the swan, is coming out of its quiescent state right now. And we are looking for radio astronomers to study this object as it goes back into a full activity state. Now, note down here, you see the zero line? There's the zero line. If you look up here, you see how low of a level of activity that is? There's the zero line. So that's the current state. And you can see it's just coming up. It's very cyclic. And it always goes to a very low state and then pops back to a very active state. Cygnus X-3, one of the most likely point sources of cosmic rays. And we want to see this studied more in depth. The implications are serious. And this thing does affect you directly, especially in terms of weather and climate. So we're looking to get this studied a little bit more here. And if you want to study it yourself, check out the Neil Gorell Swift Bat Observatory. That stands for Burst Alert Telescope. One of the most interesting objects, and possibly, at least as far as we can tell, the most intrinsically luminous object in the Milky Way galaxy. Next, we've got a stupid, idiotic, moronic, imbecile story. By the way, imbecile is an adjective as well as a noun. Containing the contrails. Small altitude changes could cut the climate impact of aircraft, study says. And guess what the study's talking about, folks? It's talking about this ridiculous notion that contrails make the planet warmer. Now, if you get a bunch of very low altitude contrails that are over the top of an airport at nighttime, yes, there is a greenhouse effect of clouds that form. Contrail cirrus clouds, for instance. However, contrails are a cooling effect, as I guess the albedo's not figured into these ridiculous models. And I guess I'll scroll the story if anybody wants to read this and get really angry about how stupid and idiotic it is. This is one of the dumbest stories I've read in quite a long time. This one's from Cosmos magazine, and there are not links below the video. They combined their recently developed model to estimate black carbon emissions for specific engine types and power with a model to estimate the characteristics and climate impact of contrails from individual flights and detailed weather information. Yeah, these people actually think that contrails make the planet warmer? What a joke. And their idea is to change the flight paths a little bit to mitigate the amount of warming that contrails cause. What a stupid, idiotic, moronic story that does not understand atmospheric physics. Listed here on Cosmos magazine. If you read it, please don't lose an IQ point. And here's an interesting article on phys.org about citizen scientists discovering brown dwarfs, some at surprisingly large distances away from each other. So perhaps read that one. Links also not in the description. If you want to see what we're doing, check out smashomash.org. Let's talk more citizen science. And zooniverse.org is the largest citizen science project in the world, and it needs humans to classify galaxies. Now that one there, don't freak out about it being some kind of alien nebula. It's just some sort of an artifact, a lens flare-like effect, probably from a foreground object. If you want to check it out yourself, zooniverse.org, Galaxy Zoo Project. Set yourself a login. You may even get published in a scientific paper. It happened last year. Actually, I believe at the end of 2018. And just go through, classify galaxies. We need humans to do it because computers are unable. Just a few million galaxies to go, folks. And we're looking at the 48-hour 304 angstroms view from the SDO. Some significant filament activity going off down there in the southwest, as well as a collapse in the north. So if you look in this area up here, you can see a filament collapse there. I'll let that play through a couple times so everybody can see it, and then we are out of here. Again, pardon the changes in the format, folks. It will all lead to bigger and better things in the end. So thanks again for tuning in, everybody. Please consider supporting the channel via Patreon. It's patreon.com/smashomash. Also, check out smashomash.com/forum. Always interesting information there, including an entire section in the cosmology forum about Cygnus X-3, massive X-ray binary. Anyway, we are out. Don't forget to stare at the sun, and when you do, don't drink, and if you do, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back, and that atherosclerosis absent from your veins.